Welcome to Fire Your Doctor with your host, Dr. Danielle Lockwood.
And Richard Lockwood. Welcome. Welcome.
45.
45. Can you believe it? We're almost at the big 50.
Colt or automatic?
Oh, Colt.
Okay.
Yeah, Colt 45 for
There
sure.
you go.
I don't know. It just sounds cool.
Yeah,
All
I'm on
right.
Colt just to be like, that's
Okay.
funny. Like some of you put your medicinary for like these different supplement lines that she has. But you put them in like bullet cases and they're for like 45 long. Because it just holds all these little vials kind of in
An organized little
Yeah.
box. That's my little travel case. I love it.
But it's just like it's clear, and so you can't really see it, but molded into the plastic of the container is like
I'll tell you what.
45 long Colt.
Every time I have to travel, and they always inspect it. They're always like, "Was it bullets in here?" And then they're like, "Oh, they're
That's
just
not a TSA approved case.
homeopathic
I'm
remedies."
like, these guys are.
They're so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about design, intelligent design, that is,
Okay.
and how that actually will change how we diagnose disease when we look at the design of the human body from an intelligence perspective.
You know what's interesting? All these symptoms and things like that. Like you just like a lot of times I do these cold. It's like we can tell. No, but as you were looking at this, and you or I was flipping through these pages, there is one thing that's kind of an interesting idea. A lot of modern science seems like it is missed. It assumes that all of a sudden the human body is in this kind of entropy decline phase. But heretofore, it's like we're growing pterodactyl wings and all these other like incredible kind of stuff. But now, right now, we're just in this kind of decline phase. Now we're in the, oh, I guess you got cancer and your eyes don't work without like glasses and just like, now we're just randomly in this decline phase. A million years ago, you would have grown feathers and like flown over a mountain. It's like,
So
my feathers now.
So they say. So they say.
No, but I'm just saying it's an interesting sidebar. That like here we are in the entropy phase.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Let's do a quick review of episode 44, which was really about how human beings are made up of, and we even talked about this in episode, I think, 43 as well, but we're minds, we're bodies, we're souls, we're spirits. And the medical system that we have today, we've seen it historically shift toward pharma, liver, you're this, and pharmaceuticals and ultra high efficiency, inefficient specialization.
Yeah.
And then you'll see many patients with chronic illnesses struggle to find answers. But underneath all of those discussions is the deeper philosophical question, which is, what if the body isn't broken at all? Which is what you're getting at, actually.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Like,
what if
I'm going to turn into a whale next?
What if we're actually intelligently designed? And what if the symptoms are not random errors?
Actually, one more thing. I think that actually we were talking about axioms in the last episode, an axiom being something that is just your base level true. Now, there's a lot of the people in the audience that come from a more of a scientific background, and they would consider it axiomatically true that there is no way that, let's just pick on the Bible, there's no way that the Bible is literally correct because when you add it all up and you look at, well, they say that the earth was without form and void and the earth was created. And when you do the math, you're just like, there's no way that the earth is like 6 to 12,000 years old, right? Now, what's interesting is the term, like in Genesis, where it's like the earth was without form and void. It actually does not mean that the earth wasn't there. It means that the earth was in a complete state of chaos, and then that the Spirit of God hovered over the deep and brought light into that situation. And so,
and order.
Yeah. And so like you also look at like in the Bible, there's this mysterious like sea monster called Leviathan. And where does it live? It lives in the deep. You know what I mean? But it's more than a sea monster. It also represents this kind of demonic principality of chaos and destruction and pride and disorder. Anyway, and so it's just kind of an interesting thing where it's like when you talk to somebody who has studied a lot of natural history, they're like, well, the earth has had like dozens of like epoch, meaning that the earth would be, from a human perspective, like functionally destroyed, right? So like, hey, we had these dinosaurs and then
a meteor hit.
A meteor or a huge volcano or just some disastrous event happened. And next thing you know, it's like snowball earth. And then it was snowball earth for like, would you say it was without form and void? And then there was a time when pretty much the whole earth was like one giant ocean. oh, would you say that the Spirit of God hovered over the deep? And so when we actually look at it, say like 12,000 years ago, there was the Younger Dryas event and some of these other events in natural history that were just this dividing line where like 90% of the animals and plants went extinct. And like it was just this hard reset of the earth.
Great point.
So the start of the Bible, given the actual interpretation and given the actual verbiage, may have been like one of these just kind of like hard resets on the earth, such as 12,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas event.
Yes. Can we go back and talk about what modern, even what we're taught within higher education, as far as obviously the theory of evolution is the theory. The theory is, let's just summarize it. There was at some point, a big bang that happened. And then
This started the universe.
And then the next thing that happened was primordial soup. I think you.
Well, that's like that's way down.
That's the way down the line.
Yeah. Like then we get basically, like, what is it? Atoms start to form and things like that. But because at first you wouldn't even have, like, you'd have too much energy to even have atoms.
Right.
And then you get very simple, like hydrogen, helium. And then over time, those coalesce and you go through entire life cycles of stars. And then those stars explode and produce the lighter elements. And then you get to like these kind of tertiary and quaternary levels where you would actually have reformed galaxies out of other exploded galaxies that you could support, like, say, heavier elements and like even the basic structures of life.
Okay. So then fast forward billions of years and we get primordial soup and
on Earth.
And then lightning hits it and then a spontaneous combustion happens and like all of a sudden life is formed. And
Louis Pasteur did an experiment
of
spontaneous generation, meaning he canned soup. Nobody had ever canned anything and he canned it and no life has ever appeared in there, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. But then, okay, so then
now it's me.
So then we have like basically one-celled organisms.
Yes.
And then from that point, we get like, I just walk me through like the evolution thing. Then we get multi-celled organisms with
prokaryotic and
and then the bacteria then become like more of like a human cell, not a human cell, but like a type of animal cell. And that the mitochondria are kind of leftovers from that bacteria. Those are remnants of that bacteria. And then the cells grew eventually to make an animal.
Yeah.
An invertebrate, and then a vertebrate. And then what happened?
Then we got rad.
And then
I mean, like we'd be here all day. Like, I mean,
yeah. And then another animal came.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like summarize it. And then eventually apes came and monkeys and things like that. And then all of a sudden
they got smarter.
They got smarter and then developed language, and some of them branched off and made humans and some of them didn't.
Yeah.
This is what we're to believe happened.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest question that at each of those steps from the Big Bang all the way to human civilization is why? Why?
Yeah.
Why did this Big Bang happen? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? And so you basically get into two camps, like when you really get it. And that would be either creation or some type of, well, there's three. There's the two most logical, I would say, are probably either creation, and then there's evolution, which, I mean, everything is dazzling order. And so that's where the evolutionists are looking at. Is they're looking at the dazzling order of the known universe.
A dazzling order of randomness, though? This is where it fails. Like
Nietzsche says, out of chaos comes order.
That's a hard leap. And again, this is coming from somebody who was trained up in conventional science,
The third option is simulation theory, which I would actually push simulation theory into creation, because simulation theory basically meaning that the earth is basically created in a computer lab in some kind of like whatever other dimension that we don't even know about and whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's called creation. So it's like whatever entity that is God basically programmed this universe and it came out of nothing.
Have you noticed that
that would be God?
It's literally anything except God, like it's like, oh, but then no, it was an alien life form outside of our known universe. I'm like,
the idea.
Can you just say God?
Yeah.
Can you just say God?
An angelic hierarchy of some sort, a supernatural or preternatural hierarchy of some type took an outside action to start and to kind of curate the universe. And that's like the dazzling level of order that you would see in just like everything from, say, like Fibonacci sequences that you see in like mathematics. And then all of a sudden it's just like, look at a snail shell.
Yeah.
And like, here they are. Or here's like a whirlpool or something. Or like the spiral arms of a galaxy with a supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A. Now, but you mentioned like outside interaction, there's some really fascinating stuff. There's one of these ideas in science called like transpermia. And it's this idea that basically like dying,
Alien sperm came to the earth.
well, that you would actually see there is a certain amount of rocks from Mars on Earth. And then the theory would go that there would be a certain amount of rocks on Mars from Earth. Like when a big enough asteroid hits the Earth, it's going to have ejecta that gets sent out into space.
Okay. So now we've kind of gone all over the place as far as that goes.
But it doesn't answer why.
But it doesn't answer why. We, you know,
Like, why is there ejecta in space?
but if we believe in an intelligent design, that there was an intelligent designer,
Sure.
that there's a reason for that, and then everything starts coming into perspective from there.
But even in an evolutionary perspective, it's like you expect and you demand this kind of hyper optimization, this almost just like godlike perfection in the development of your universe. Meaning that whatever it is, it's just like this galaxy, this planet, this star is going to increase, continually be increasing in godlike perfection. These life forms on this planet are going to continually increase in godlike perfection. Now, some people take that into like a worship of creation. That's not what I personally believe. I would say that no, these things are marked with the fingerprints. If something was made by a perfect being, it would have aspects of that perfection around it. Meaning that, like, if I made a piece of art, you would have something of my personality in it.
Well, and even DNA, they're finding out if you follow the mitochondrial DNA, it goes back to a single origin.
Yeah.
So it eventually goes back to a single origin, which is what it
Lightning
says.
bolts and primordial soup.
That's yeah.
Nice.
So
Okay.
let's talk, like I give that background
lost,
because I want to, there is another side to it. There is the scientific explanation that doesn't include an intelligent design.
Well, I guess at that point, each one of these steps, and like the math honestly is kind of boring to me, but each one of these steps, like the Big Bang and then formation of galaxies, and then this formation of heavier elements, like all of these steps are so hyper unlikely that it's just like you have won the most outrageous lottery in the universe a billion times in a row.
That you would have had to do to make those steps happen.
Now, if you won 999,000 times and you lost the 1 millionth lottery, reality implodes. Matter hits antimatter, and there's like this kind of like nuclear explosion, and like life just like, and not even life at that point, but the precursors of galaxies just kind of evaporate into nothing.
Yeah.
It'd be a cool burst of light, though.
But
and gamma rays.
Which, okay. All right. This is a favorite subject of his, actually.
We don't talk about it a lot, but I've read about it.
Much of modern medicine operates on an assumption that the body is inherently fragile and prone to failure.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's what I mean, that all of a sudden we switch to entropy.
Yes.
That like,
but they have to. In order for the system to work the way it is, where symptoms are often treated as problems, they must then be, because something's wrong, suppressed, blocked, or controlled. For example, acid reflux. What will you do in modern medicine for acid reflux? Acid blockers. What about inflammation? Anti-inflammatory drugs. What about anxiety? Anti-anxiety drugs that suppress or modulate neurotransmitters. So sometimes these tools are necessary. I am not saying that there aren't case uses for these things, and I will use them when I need to. But if we stop there, we're going to miss that deeper question. Why did the symptom appear in the first place?
You're making a dangerous assumption. Is like what you're saying is that on the one hand, you're saying, oh, I believe in evolution. Okay, so we've got this hyper specializing and continuously improving in perfection system where it's like, oh, dude, bro, everything's oceans now. Let's just all be whales. And so all of a sudden, okay, so life evolves into whales. Well, hey, we got a lot of land now. Hey, let's evolve into land mammals. So you've got these hyper, just ever improving perfection. But you, my friend, sitting in my office,
Yeah.
you can't even make acid in your stomach right.
Yeah.
And that's
Weird.
an interesting dichotomy.
Weird.
We're just at this tipping point where everything's downhill from here.
Exactly. So when the body develops symptoms, it's often communicating that something internal in the internal environment is out of alignment. For example, inflammation is going to signal something like injury or a toxin exposure or a background infection that's hidden, which I call stealth infections. Fatigue can be a signal for a nutrient deficiency or an absorption issue or issues with the mitochondrial function, usually brought on by an infection or a toxin exposure, right? So in this sense,
spiritual state.
Or an emotional spiritual state. In this sense, symptoms are not always enemies. They're often messages from the body. I call them the breadcrumbs. I was like, no, this is actually just a breadcrumb to go figure out what's actually going on. But suppressing the message without understanding it can then delay real healing time.
Right. So what you're talking about is a fundamentally different worldview.
Yes.
Your worldview, if I was to like really just break it down, would be the body is fundamentally good, and I need to find out how to bring it back into its inherent beauty.
Beautiful.
Or like elegance.
Yes. So
whereas they're saying the body's fundamentally bad and it needs to be stopped from doing this wrong thing.
What I will say to patients often is, I believe for the most part that we are made fantastically when we were born, right? We're born, we're made fantastically. Yes. Can kids have nutrient deficiencies? Can they have trauma at birth? Can they have those things? Yes. But for the most part, unless that's what we're talking about in the office, we're talking about a system that was fine and now is not fine.
I would even say, like, even at conceptions, like problems at conception, you
Yes.
could even trace that back to something that would be some kind of insult or injury to a system of ever improving beauty and perfection.
So the Bible actually says something about this. It says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah. And that we're also image bearers of God.
Yeah.
And as an image bearer of God, one of the things that we would do is we would exhibit in our physical and spiritual bodies and our creativity in our lives, we would experience and live out and demonstrate ever increasing perfection.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if we're talking about the Bible, there is also this idea of like the fallen nature
The
of
sin.
reality, the sin of the earth.
Yes.
But even that sin, those are things that can be repented for and redeemed.
Yeah. Absolutely. The quote is actually Psalm 139:14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. So it's this, like you said, just we're the image bearers of God. And so we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if we come from that perspective, we'll be much more hopeful in the fact that we can actually find a solution to the problem.
Well, he's actually demonstrating solution to the problems. Number one, he's acknowledging the inherent goodness of humanity. Because you look at it like it's the enemy, it's the devil, it's the demonic realm that is the one that wants to stamp out the image and ruin and corrupt and destroy the image of God in humans. Right. And so this idea that it's just like,
and pervert it.
yeah, I mean, you were always going to get cancer, and like this is just who you are.
Yeah.
This is all you can look forward to.
You were born wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
You're wrong. Your body is wrong. And
Yeah.
like, so that those are very like demonic messages. But number one, what is the psalmist, most likely David? What is he saying? Number one, he's leading with gratitude. He's thanking God. And he's just like, thank you for making me. And he's just like, when I look at like what you've created and what you've created in humanity and particularly in me, is that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And so he's coming from a place of gratitude and acknowledging that it's like, no, this is a body that can heal, it can adapt, it can learn, it can grow.
The human body is extraordinarily complex and organized at the same time. That takes intelligence. So here's a few examples of that. There are trillions of cells working together in coordinated systems. They actually talk to each other in a coordinated way every millisecond.
True.
Amazing. Immune cells are constantly monitoring for threats. You know how to do it. The mitochondria, which are the little powerhouses of the cell, produce energy for every movement we're making. Hormones regulate metabolism and reproduction. Just reproduction itself is incredible. It's like,
hey, be careful there.
Well, I mean,
there might be kids listening.
No, I'm talking about just to be able to get the egg
Meiosis.
to float in and get where it's supposed to go is incredible, right? It's just all incredible.
What are the, no, not those. Like when they don't float in, like there's like a stone maybe. What are those called?
Oh yeah. Fecalith. No, fetolith.
Fetolith. That's it.
Fetolith.
Like there's like a
Yeah.
tensillith, there's otolith, there's a
Yeah.
lot of liths.
Yes.
Lithos being stone.
Fetal.
We're going that's way off.
Okay.
That's
The process, the processes, these processes function with incredible precision.
it's true.
They're not random accidents. They look like systems that were designed to maintain and reflect life. That's what they are.
And continually improve that process.
And as a lady scientist,
you don't have your glasses on. I don't think.
No, what is going on? As a lady scientist, I could just cry at how beautiful it is. Even if I don't exactly understand it, to see it in action and then to go, I'm going to understand this process as much as I can. And because I believe it's intelligently made, if I do this, we should see function restored. And then we do. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
I would say, you know what I would say? I would say that even the people that don't believe in God, they also believe in intelligent design. The honest operators, they're just looking at this and looking and, they're studying this picture and nobody can really see who painted it. But, here we are.
It's gorgeous.
And it's beautiful.
Scientists, let's talk about some scientists historically who recognized the design. So some of the most influential scientists in history actually recognize the order and structure present in the natural world. For example, you might have heard of a guy named Isaac Newton, one of the founders of modern physics. He wrote this, quote, "This most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being." End quote. Another major figure would be the scientist Max Planck. He's the father of quantum theory.
Planck time.
Yes, also acknowledged the relationship between science and a belief in a creator. He said this, both religion, quote, both religion and science require a belief in God. So these scientists were not rejecting science. They were recognizing that the deeper they studied nature, the more evidence they saw of the order and the structure. So good. So good. I always say this to you. Hey, our God is a God of order, right? He's a God of justice. He's a God of structure. He's an engineer. He's very precise.
Yeah. Let's just touch on, because basically what we end up with is like you end up with basic rabbit trails right into, say, problem of evil and like things like that. And basically the answer to that is one of dominion.
Mm-hmm.
In that human beings have been given dominion over the earth.
Yeah.
And so that means that, very importantly, our words and our actions together define the reality and the life experience on this planet.
That's deeper than most people have even really thought, but it's good.
Why do bad things happen if there's, why do bad things happen if there's a God? Why did God let...
Because he's so good that he gave you free will.
Yeah. Well, we're dealing with the collective free will of billions of people.
Yeah.
And so it's not just my free will, it's my free will fractionated billions of times to every human being on earth. Now, here's where it gets like really interesting, is like, at what point though does one person's free will choice start to like make ripple effects in that? And you'll actually see this in like, say, like, well, I mean, let's just pick on a couple, like the historic figures, right? Would be examples of that, where, say, Joan of Arc or like somebody like that, one person just like stood up and was just like, I'm not going to accept this order. I'm not going to accept the way that things were always done. And then you will literally see these points where somebody was literally willing to give their life for the truth. Say Socrates. Just these things were watershed moments in history. And of course, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, would be like the prime example of that.
Yeah.
I've actually heard somebody that is very much in the evolution side. And like, I've never had the chance to really like press him on this, but he's like talked about like, well, how can I don't really believe this and I don't know how the Bible's relevant. And it's just like you in your own personal life have lived the story of Jesus in your own kind of microcosm. So you had this entire life that you had built. And then you had a choice. Do I stand for the truth and watch everything in my entire future like burn? Or do I accept the lie and just kind of take the deal and live in this kind of system based on lies and corruption? And this person chose, like, I don't care. I'm willing to lose everything for the truth. And then this person's entire career and being and identity was reborn and is infinitely more powerful, resurrected.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, there's a person that doesn't believe in the Bible, but you've lived it.
Yeah. You've lived it in real time, in real life. So
It's interesting.
if the body was designed to function in a particular way, then disease will often reflect the interference with the design itself, right?
Yeah.
So modern life would be an example of that. There's a lot of factors, for example, ultra processed foods or environmental toxins or chronic stress or trauma, right? That could be physical trauma, mental, emotional, spiritual trauma, sleep disruption, screen exposures, sedentary lifestyle. So these are examples of over time, these factors can then overwhelm the body's natural regulatory systems. And then the body begins adapting and setting that new normal to the stressor. And those adaptations will often appear as symptoms.
Everything that you mentioned in that entire list is addressed in the Bible.
I know. It's amazing.
Like even things like, so it's like, oh, it's not like somebody's like, thou shalt not like stare at your phone like 10 hours a day.
We're going to talk about that in our next episode,
It's not an actual verse, but like the principles behind managing your exposure to things like that are like throughout the Bible. Every single point in that.
Let's talk about one concept and that is in the Bible where the body itself is referred to as the temple. So it's the place where God dwells within each of us who accept Jesus as Lord and Savior, right? So the Old Testament.
Your body's a temple either way. It's just, what is that temple worshiping?
Good point. The Old Testament, the temple was the place where God's presence dwelled. So they actually
was supposed to dwell.
Yeah.
Because the Israelites went into apostasy and then they brought in Baals and Asherah and like basically sacrifices to demons and stuff like that into that temple repeatedly, and then reaped the consequences of that corruption.
But 1 Corinthians 6:19, this is from the New Testament. This is the NIV version.
We gotta stick with NIV. Power through.
It's the NIV. Okay. Quote, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit?
Yes.
If the body's a temple, then how we care for it matters deeply, right? So the physical body requires things like nourishment, rest, movement, protection from harmful exposures. I would say emotional connection, touch, community. Like these are things the body requires, right? Just as importantly, the spiritual heart is going to require some things like, for example, the truth. You just mentioned the truth.
Yeah, but there's a huge cognitive load of like,
it just like wants it.
Conscious mind is screaming, "Are we the baddies?"
But
you've got to avoid it because you won't be able to like function.
Humility, repentance, connection with something outside yourself. In this case, connection with God. Health is not only physical. It reflects the alignment in both the physical and the spiritual dimensions of life. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we long for that. Even when I wasn't a practicing Christian, I still longed for the truth. I just desired it so much. I just wanted the truth.
I would argue that a desire and a longing for truth is in itself a worship for God or worship of God. Because you are affirming, so we start reading lyrics of Christian worship music, like what are you doing? Or even reading in the Bible, like the Psalms, which are basically like praise hymns and kind of laments and different things that are written. And what they're doing is they are bringing out and bringing appreciation and noticing to attributes of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be that's what worship is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, look at your beautiful creation that you have made. So gratitude would be a big part of worship, and repentance and all these things. So in that like longing for truth, what you're actually doing is something it's actually in the Lord's Prayer, like thy kingdom come, meaning God's kingdom come, thy will be done, God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so an internal longing for the truth, speaking words and taking actions that align with the truth is not just even saying the Lord's Prayer, it is doing the Lord's Prayer. And so I would say that by that definition, longing and living in the truth, even for a non-Christian, is, like it or not, you are worshiping God.
Because that represents aspect of his character.
So you are living out at your own expense, at your own cost. You are living out something that is true, deeply true about God's character.
Mm-hmm.
So you are, like it or not, you are now insofar as you are devoted to the truth to the point of causing yourself harm because truth matters more than your own physical safety. You are a living icon of God's nature.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can slip into pride and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and then you're kind of mixing truth with pride and stuff like that. And that's where that would start to fall off.
Yeah. Amen. One of the biggest misconceptions in modern medicine is the idea that normal equals healthy, right? So we talked about this last time. Many people today experience lots of dysfunction with, quote, normal labs, right? So when a lab result fails within that statistical normal range, it may still be far from that optimal health. So what should be asked is, what would the body look like if it were functioning in the way that it was designed to? So most of the time I'm teaching patients, no, this is actually what your body is supposed to do. Here's how it's compensated. Here's how we're going to know when we've gotten back to optimal function, AKA an intelligent designed function. Right.
I think that part of it isn't even a problem. Like, so there's this way, though, that, like, well, God isn't real because look at this body, it has everything wrong with it. And you're just like, well, yeah, you're using your kitchen sink as a toilet. It's not going to work right. And if you use your, toilet as a sink, it's not going to work right. So when you do have intelligent design, there are going to be things that you might have to just do. And you're just like, hey, listen, it's my identity and it is my entire lifestyle and it's my worldview that this is my toilet and then this is where I store my food in the attic and I put my shoes in the fridge. And so there are a lot of things where I would posit culture, tradition, pride, and dare I say, even demonic influence have trained us or conditioned us to use this body and all of these things that we've been given in ways that are doomed. And then we lash out at God. I have tried so many times to keep my food from spoiling, and every time I put it in the attic, it spoils. Where is God? Where is God?
That is such a good word.
And my shoes are cold.
Yeah.
Day. I hate.
Such a good example.
God still loves you. God still loves, even if you hate him, he still loves you.
He still loves you.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. It's just, he's up there in heaven, just like,
Beloved.
you're gonna have to give something up. You're gonna have to give up this love of putting shoes in the fridge.
Yeah. Of you being right.
And actually that's something is like the human brain. It's like we are so conditioned. This actually gets back to in the book of Genesis, the Garden of Eden. It's like knowing and determining, if you will, like having this knowledge and taking the control of the definition of good and evil. And you see that throughout the Bible thematically in that the human mind will defend and actually rewrite its own internal history up to the point of confabulating memories that didn't happen or distorting them so it can be right.
Yeah, it's true.
So
true.
one of the hardest things to do is to humble yourself and just be like, am I wrong about everything? And God's like, no, actually, you were right about 99 things. You just need to fix one.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to put everything on the table.
Everything, right?
Everything on the table.
That's the psalm that is like when you're talking about
search me and know me.
Search me and know me. That is a hard psalm. It is
so deceitful above all things.
Yes, it's important that we humble ourselves to even say, search me, Lord. Like, search me. Like, I think I know what I know, but what don't I know, right?
Yeah.
So the true north for healing really is if the body has an intelligent design, that design then becomes our true north for understanding health. Instead of asking, for example, hey,
body's wrong and I need to punish it.
Oh, and what symptoms should I be suppressing? We start asking questions like, what system is out of alignment? Where's the imbalance? What environmental exposures might be interfering? Right.
What am I doing? How am I not maintaining this system properly?
Right. How come it could be, why do I keep attracting a bad relationship? That, because that goes
And
into the emotional. I'm
no,
not
but
talking about us. I'm talking about, I'm just,
yeah,
hey,
no, patterns
patterns, right?
that people have. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And different people are going to have different needs and different maintenance. It's just like, you know what? I pumped 30 gallons of diesel into my Tesla and I poured 11 quarts of oil into it
It just won't work.
and it
It's
still
not
won't work.
working.
And it's like, yeah, that car you have to plug in to, high voltage and charge it on a regular basis. And you've just described the maintenance procedures for a diesel truck.
Yeah.
It's like if you get those backwards, like you've ruined it. You could
Yeah.
total the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So healing then becomes the process of restoring the
Yeah.
conditions the body needs to function properly.
And as in your clinical practice, have you found those to be the same across the board?
No, that's
No.
why you can't just, we have a
Yeah.
general protocol for things, but we're always vacillating in and out different protocols and adding this and adding that and taking away this depending on the person's stress that week
Yeah. Well, and the person's just, it's kind of an
or
archaic term, but constitution.
their constitution. Can they handle that this week?
Well, some people just digest certain types of foods better.
Yeah. Or can they handle this at all? Okay, this worked for 10 out of 20 patients, but it's not going to work for 10 out of 20 patients, right?
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go, well, guess we need a new protocol.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, we've talked about that. Like where it's like there's some people where it's just like, you know what? You don't do well with alcohol.
Yeah. You
Somebody else
just
doesn't
don't.
do well with carbs.
That's it. That's it.
Not fair.
And how's that going to manifest in the body? It's going to manifest as, okay, you could be doing the exact same thing as your friend. You're going to get,
Or your wife.
or your wife, you're going to get a cardiovascular issue and you're going to get MS,
Well,
multiple sclerosis.
or somebody else is just going to be awesome.
Or you're going to be awesome. Like it's so individual. And that's the other part. If I believe you're intelligently designed, I believe that there are certain things you can handle that other people can't handle because you're an individual. You're intelligently designed. So the human body is not a random collection of biological parts. It's an integrated system with remarkable intelligence and organization. So symptoms often represent signals that something in the environment or lifestyle has disrupted then the system. Understanding the body as designed rather than defective changes how we approach health and healing. Yeah.
Like as we're talking about this, I'm just like thinking about it in my years doing like just kind of patient care as a tech or whatever, like before we met, like there were I worked in psych and I also worked in like skilled facilities, and one of them was it was actually a pediatric skilled facility, and you see some really hard things, and some of those were just like human kind of caused, like severe accidents, and it's just like they're almost dead, and then others would just be basically like just kind of genetic and these types of things. And so you're just at the front line of that, like kind of the attack on the inherent goodness of the human body and of the human like soul. And then I guess like, no, I had a point, but I'm starting to like, no, where was it? It's important.
Well, we were talking about the design rather than the defect.
Yeah. And I think that there's this, okay, yeah, to get from A to B is what you're talking about is an act of faith.
Yeah.
Because what you are seeing, if you see somebody that they've seen 10 doctors and they've been dealing with this issue for 10 to 20 years, and the doctor after doctor is just like, I don't know, guess you're just this way, deal with it, deal with it. And what you're doing is the one thing that would be kind of like the secret ingredient is that you are living out faith that something better can be. So you were having faith defined as, what I'm doing is I am having a vision of what is, and I am calling what is into what can be but is not. We talked about this actually in the Reclaiming the Bedroom series, when you're like dealing with your wife or your husband and they are not living and acting in a way that it's almost like, I am going to call that out of my wife. Like, like if I'm not attracted to her, or I don't think she's beautiful or like treating me the way I want, it's like I am going to like speak that over her in faith, that like my wife is beautiful, that my wife does love me, that she does treat me well,
Mm-hmm.
And that this act of faith that you're doing as a physician is you are actually participating in an aspect of the creation of God and actually the ministry of Christ when he would see somebody that's like, you are a broke, prostitute, homeless, leper that is a cast off of society. Nobody would miss you if you died. And he is calling that person and saying, like, you rise up and walk
Mm-hmm.
and be healed. And so that is a fundamental act of faith because you were saying, like, no, 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 no. God's word says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. The world is saying that you are broken.
And I'm just like a dog on a bone for it too. I'm
Okay.
just a dog on a bone. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't come into alignment with that. I don't believe you're broken. I'm gonna call forth that intelligent design that I know
What does
is
the
there.
devil come to do? Three things.
Kill, steal, destroy.
There you go. And so, like, what we see,
Accuse.
yeah, okay, there's a fourth, but yeah, steal, kill, destroy. And so, what we see is we see a patient population of people whose health has been stolen, their
Mm.
health has been destroyed, and ultimately their humanity, physical, emotional, everything, are being killed. And so it's just like, no, 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 no. I'm going to look past that and I'm going to see what can be.
I never thought about it that way, but it's
It's a
really,
fundamental act of faith,
it is. It's absolutely faith.
but it's also faith on the part of the patient
And
because,
even I would even say docs who really care and they seek that truth, they have to exhibit faith too.
well,
They have faith in whatever they have faith in, right?
the weight of the pain and suffering, though, can actually get you to the point where it's just like it's trying to smother, it's trying to choke. It's almost like a python, like a snake that's trying to
Mhm.
like just coil around and just smash that God's image
Yep.
and that faith in you. And so there is this period of like bearing up. And what I mean is just like resisting that demonic pressure. It's like if you get something like that where it's like somebody that's been sick for years or decades, it's like there is this spiritual weight on this. It's like
Hmm.
this cancer is going to kill you, and we all know it, and you're just wasting your time and money. Your
Hmm.
relatives are already like thinking about who's going to get the inheritance. Just face it, it's over. And it's just crushing and crushing and crushing. And that act of faith is saying, like, no, you know what? Like, God has granted me many years. I have so much left to do on this planet. I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah. And just start declaring that. Yeah.
So faith, and that's where faith fits in that. And that's there's actually so many of these studies about like, the guy that they crossed up the picking on lab results, they crossed up the lab results. And there's the guy that the doctor was like, listen, this is cancer. This is inoperable. I'm sorry, sir, but you got to get your affairs in order. And the guy dies before Christmas. And then they do the autopsy because they're like, okay, well, let's just donate this guy to science because he died of cancer. And they're like, we can't find the cancer,
There's no
sir.
cancer. They made a
They
mistake.
but they spoke the word.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
spoke the word and the faith. The doctor had 100% faith that this guy's dying of cancer. The patient was just like, doctor says I'm dying of cancer, I'm dying of cancer.
Mm.
And he died of cancer. And so it's like people like make fun of the placebo effect, but the placebo effect is laughable if you don't know who you are. Now, if you are fearfully, wonderfully made and you are this being that is a physical being, but also has a spirit that is capable of communicating with the supernatural, and you have been given a mandate over the earth that whatever you speak becomes reality and that this is your God-given mandate as like, we have inherited the earth and we've been given the earth. And all of a sudden, every human being is kind of like this priest that can kind of start speaking reality.
Mm.
God tells you to pray because when you are praying, you are speaking God's will into reality. And so if you are speaking cancer into reality, then that's what you're doing. If you're speaking, I hate traffic and I never have enough money, and this is actually a nexus point between New Age and the Bible, is that everything in life can be seen as prayer.
Well, we are going to be doing an episode on prayer in medicine and what the research says. So
Right.
that's
Oh,
coming up.
there's a really cool one on that.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is it's a long like but yeah, and then there's the other person that was told they didn't have cancer and they're gonna live, and they actually did.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, doctor said I'm gonna live. I'm awesome. I'm just like, let's go on a cruise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they lived because they
Yeah.
had that faith.
They had
They
the
had that
faith.
faith. And
Yeah.
so what did they do? They didn't just have that faith. They spoke words and they took actions based on that faith that like,
Yeah.
I am healed, I am better.
Book of James says faith without works is dead.
Right.
So if we don't put our faith into the action of what we think is going to happen because we have faith for it, then dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, you'll see that a lot, and this was something I wrestled with a lot in my early 20s, was this concept of, it's just like, well, okay, I have faith. If God's going to move, God's going to move. I'll just be over here like hiding in the corner. And the problem with that is, if I really have faith that God's going to show up in a miracle, I'll start taking risks. I will start taking risks. And it's like, if God's going to show up and do a miracle, then you would do anything to like bring that into reality. Right? So what shows more faith? Well, I guess God might do it, but he might not. I'll just go hide over here and not take action. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I really have faith that God's going to move, I am going to live and I am going to take actions that only someone that believes that in their heart would do.
Yep. You're going to live as if that is happening. Yeah. You're going to live into the reality of that faith.
And a lot of times there's conditions, you know. It's just like, well, God, I want to live. So you can mismanage more years of your life. So that's where the alignment comes in.
Yeah. What are you going to do with that freedom? That's always the question I have for patients.
Keep using your kitchen sink as a toilet. And it's like, God's not going to take that deal forever. And so it's like, no, I want you to heal me. But it's just like, well, what if that act of faith is you've got to give up certain foods? Like, these foods just don't align with you. Drinking alcohol, maybe that doesn't align with you. This toxic relationship pattern doesn't align with you. And so there's also this, with faith comes sacrifice. And people think that it's like, oh, well, sacrifice, that's Old Testament talk. For people that aren't Christians, in the Old Testament, they would sacrifice animals to atone for things like sin and just kind of like the daily movements of like what was then the temple, but is now the church. In the New Testament, it's like, okay, well, Jesus was his death and resurrection. That was the eternal atoning sacrifice. But Christians aren't just like, okay, hey, Jesus did it, I'm going to go watch TV. Christians are called to be and embody the death and resurrection of Christ, which means that as a Christian, it's not just like, hey, I sent a goat and a dove because I accidentally lied to my neighbor and I'm sorry. No. New Testament means like, I will participate in the death and life of Christ, and anything that Christ asks for, I will give, up to and including my life. I will die for it. And so if the Lord is like, okay, well, if you want to get healed of this, you're going to have to give up foods, you're going to have to give up comforts, you're going to have to give up these idols, and you aren't willing to make that sacrifice, then you aren't worthy of it.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. Okay. Closing thought is, when we stop assuming the body's broken, we begin asking better questions. And those better questions often lead to better answers. Healing is not about forcing the body to behave. It's about removing the interference so the body can do what it was created to do. Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
Like it?
That sounds like something we wrote in the book.
I know it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is our stuff. So in the next episode, we're going to take this conversation even further. If the body was designed to function in a particular way, then what happens when the immune system becomes overwhelmed? Many people are told they have something called autoimmune disease and that their body is attacking itself. But what's really happening? So in the next episode, we're going to talk about the autoimmune myth. And I think we're going to touch in on prayer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be clear, like, there are times when the body can like attack itself, but it's like, that's also like a symptom that's like, we gotta start fixing some very ground level stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you know, if you try to plug your toaster into your Tesla outlet, I mean, it has safety features, but suppose it didn't, you know, your toaster is going to ride the lightning, you know? And so what it means is, there's a lot of things that are just weird. As a society, we've been almost diabolically, I mean that literally, diabolically programmed to live, be, and act in ways that are contrary to our God-created nature. And that's what an autoimmune system is.
That's true. Very true. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on episode number
45.
So
Cult.
The
Not
cult.
automatic. I'm like at those
cult.
short little
All right.
subsonic cartons.
We will see you next time on Fire Your Doctor.
All right.
Bye.